Mr. Secretary, you lied to Congress, you misled the American people, and you are complicit in the Trump administration's intent to suppress the growing political power of the non-white population. You have already done great harm to Census 2020, and you have zero credibility, and you should, in my opinion, resign.
That is how Donald Trump's Secretary of Commerce Wilbur Ross was greeted today in the House Oversight Committee. It was Wilbur Ross's turn today to discover how much has changed since voters decided to give Democrats control of the House of Representatives. Last year, when Republicans controlled the House, Wilbur Ross testified there that he added a question about citizenship to the next census because the Justice Department asked him to do that.
We have had a request, as everyone is aware, from the Department of Justice to add a citizenship question to the 2020 census. We are responding solely to the Department of Justice's request.
Since that testimony, in the discovery process of a lawsuit, emails have been revealed showing that Wilbur Ross's staff had made repeated requests to the Justice Department to send them a request for the change in the census and a legal justification for that change. That lawsuit has also revealed that Wilbur Ross spoke to Steve Bannon and others in the White House about the change before receiving any communication from the Justice Department. That's why you just heard Congressman Lacy Clay telling Wilbur Ross, you lied to Congress. In today's hearing, Wilbur Ross discovered what it's like to go up against the freshmen in the House of Representatives. This time, it was Massachusetts Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley's turn to force the Commerce Secretary into a corner where he was afraid to answer the question.
On any of your calls with the Attorney General, did you ask the Attorney General to send you a letter requesting the addition of a citizenship question, yes or no?
As I have said before, the content of my conversations with the Attorney General are confidential.
It may be confidential, but it's not privileged. So again, one more time, could you disclose what was the nature of your phone call with the Attorney General if at any point you asked him to include the immigration question in the census, the citizenship question?
My answer is the same as what I gave you.
Okay.
After a Republican congressman said that Thomas Jefferson believed there should be a question about citizenship in the census, Wilbur Ross said this.
Well, I'm a great admirer of Thomas Jefferson.
That's the kind of thing a cabinet secretary could say back when 81-year-old Wilbur Ross was in college and there were no black women in the House of Representatives. But now there are black women in the House of Representatives and black men who know about Thomas Jefferson's treatment of Sally Hemings and who know exactly the way Thomas Jefferson believed we should count human beings in this country.
Mr. Ross, you're aware also that Thomas Jefferson believed that slaves should be counted as 3/5 of a person for a population basis. So I'm not sure if Thomas Jefferson should be the litmus test for what we should be doing for a counting census.
That was Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett of the Virgin Islands. We are joined now by one of the freshmen in the House of Representatives who are changing how the Trump administration is being held accountable. Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, a Democrat from Massachusetts, a member of the Oversight and Reform Committee. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Really appreciate having you here.
Thank you for having me.
So another 6.5-hour hearing. Yes. You get your shot, and you corner the secretary, and he claims something that doesn't exist. He has no right to say, none of them do, that the communication was confidential. This administration seems to think there are rights that they don't have.
Well, this is the day of reckoning. Under Chairman Cummings, I mean, under the previous when the Democrats were not in the majority, Oversight and Reform was giving this administration a pass.
I mean, can I just pause there for a second?
Sure.
This hearing would never have occurred, if the Republicans were in control.
That's right.
So even if you'd been elected into the minority, you wouldn't have had any minutes with Wilbur Ross today.
That's right. Day of reckoning, and Chairman Cummings said it's the challenge in charge of us as members of the Oversight and Reform Committee to be effective and efficient in pursuit of the truth. We certainly did attempt to do that today as a committee and the collective. I do believe that we were stonewalled at every turn. And in fact, this was incredibly frustrating for 6.5 hours when we could produce documents and, in fact, even video that showed that Secretary Ross was in contradiction with previous statements. And that's very serious. Michael Cohen perjured himself, and he's going to jail. So, you know, we don't take these contradictions, these obstructions, and this stonewalling lightly by any stretch of the imagination. And during, you said I cornered him, but during that round of questioning, he said that my time was up, and I had to remind him that it was not that was not up to him. That was up to the chair.
I want to go to something that happened on the House floor today that looks kind of extraordinary from us out on the outside. 420 to nothing was the vote on the House floor, saying that, of course, Robert Mueller's report should be released to Congress and the public. Were you surprised that there were 0 votes against that?
No, you know, I consider myself to be an internal optimist here, and there are many things that we disagree on, but we collectively agree that the American people deserve to know the truth, and so that report should be made public. You know, again, there are indicators potentially of obstruction of justice, of collusion, but we won't know if any of that is substantiated or real until we receive this report, and the American people deserve full transparency.
I know when you were running in Massachusetts, gun legislation, gun safety issues were important to your campaign. Actually ran into you one summer day in the middle of your campaign in Massachusetts. You were behind in the polls, but you were confident you were going to win, and you did. The ruling in the Sandy Hook case today, the court ruling saying that, yes, the gun manufacturers can be sued for the way they are both marketing and making these guns available to what turn out to be mass murderers. That is a big breakthrough in this field.
Absolutely. Speaking of the Massachusetts 7th, gun violence is an issue of consequence for our district and throughout the country. It is I am heartened and inspired by the hundreds of family members that I've met who have suffered tragic loss and have become advocates in gun violence prevention to make sure that no other family knows that hurt and that ache. This is, you know, the year, it seems, for accountability, and so I think it's an exciting precedent. We can't return those 26 souls, but I hope it puts these families on a pathway to peace and to healing and to justice, and it's an encouraging precedent. You know, in the spirit of accountability, I actually, when Wells Fargo was before the Financial Services Committee, this was my line of questioning because unlike other banks which have divested from gun manufacturers and from the NRA, Wells Fargo continues to invest quite formidably, and we took them to task on that. They should be held accountable for the contributing role that they are playing in this public health crisis and epidemic that is gun violence.
Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on the button below for more from The Last Word and the rest of MSNBC.